You think focus is about discipline. It isn't. Focus is about elimination, and right now, you are eliminating the wrong things. You are cutting out rest, cutting out silence, cutting out the slow, uncomfortable work that actually builds something. And instead, you are feeding every distraction that arrives dressed as ambition. A notification. A conversation. A plan that never becomes action. You call it productivity. You call it hustle. But what you are actually doing is staying busy so you never have to confront the terrifying question of whether you are truly capable of the thing you say you want. The moment you confuse motion with direction, you lose. And most men lost that battle years ago without ever knowing a war was being fought. Once you see this, you cannot unsee it. What I am about to give you is not motivation. Motivation is a sedative for weak minds. What I am giving you is architecture, the internal structure of a man who cannot be broken, distracted, manipulated, or stopped. The general's mindset. Not the soldier who follows orders. The general who decides them. This is Dominion Protocol. And this video is not for everyone. Let us begin by naming the enemy. Because you have one. And it is not your circumstances, your competition, or the people who underestimated you. The enemy is internal. It is the unfocused mind, and the unfocused mind is not lazy. That is the critical misunderstanding. Lazy men know they are lazy. The unfocused man is dangerous because he believes he is working. He believes he is trying. He has the calendar, the journal, the goals written in clean handwriting. He has the content he consumed about discipline at 5 a.m. And yet, nothing compounds. Nothing builds. Nothing arrives. This is the invisible enemy. Scattered attention disguised as effort. Most people live their entire lives inside this illusion. They stay permanently one step away from the version of themselves they imagine. Not because the universe blocked them. Because they never developed the ruthless cognitive architecture to filter out everything that is not the mission. Weak men want to do everything. They want every option open. They want every relationship maintained, every opportunity chased, every interest explored simultaneously. They call it balance. Power does not reward balance. Power rewards obsession directed with precision. They want you scattered. The algorithm wants your attention fractured into 17 pieces so you never assemble them into a weapon. The social environment rewards the performer, the reactor, the man who responds immediately. Responsiveness feels like relevance. But the general is never reactive. He is deliberate. Always. And that deliberateness is what most men have been trained out of since childhood. You were taught to raise your hand before you speak. To wait for permission. To ask if your idea was correct before committing to it. And that training calcified into a psychological posture, the posture of a man who does not fully trust his own direction. That posture is what this video dismantles. 500 years ago, Machiavelli wrote something that most people reduce to manipulation tactics and miss the deeper truth entirely. He understood that the man who tries to please everyone becomes owned by everyone. He wrote that a ruler who is not himself a man of decision will be pulled in 1,000 directions by those around him, each offering advice, each with competing interests, each weakening the center. The unfocused man is not just unproductive. He is governable, controllable. The scattered man is easy to manipulate because his attention is already fragmented. One more pull in one more direction barely registers as a violation. History does not remember the men who maintained their options. It remembers the men who committed. Caesar crossing the Rubicon was not a calculated hedge. It was the elimination of retreat as a possibility. Alexander did not conquer the known world while keeping his calendar flexible. Focus, at its highest level, is not a productivity strategy. It is a declaration of identity. It says, "This is who I am, this is what I am building, and everything else is noise." That declaration is what you are going to make by the end of this. After this video, you will never relate to distraction the same way. You will see it for what it is, an external force that profits from your inability to protect your attention. You will become impossible to casually redirect. The small emergencies that used to pull you off course will feel like what they are, irrelevant. The opinions that used to linger in your mind like uninvited guests will lose their furniture and leave. You will become strategically superior to the version of you that existed before this moment, not because I gave you a technique, but because you are about to undergo an identity reconstruction. And once you see yourself as a man of directed, weaponized focus, you cannot go back to performing scattered effort and calling it work. This changes everything. Here is how. Number 1. You do not manage your time. You protect your attention like a sovereign protects territory. Time management is a myth that keeps average men organized inside their own mediocrity. You can manage your time perfectly, every hour blocked, every task scheduled, and still accomplish nothing that matters, because you allowed your attention to be colonized by low-value inputs. Attention is the actual resource. Time is just the container. And every person, platform, notification, and obligation in your life is making a claim on your attention right now. Most of those claims are illegitimate. Most of them are disguised as urgency. And you have been trained to treat urgency as authority. The man who responds to every message immediately signals one thing: I have no sovereign territory.
Come in freely.
Walk around. Help yourself. He is colonized and comfortable with it because responsiveness has been socially rewarded. People like him. He is available. He is present. But the general is never just available. He deploys his presence with intention. He chooses when to engage, what to acknowledge, and what to let die in the silence of non-response. This is not rudeness. This is the management of a finite resource. Here is the reframe. Every time you reflexively check your phone mid-task, you are not taking a break. You are transferring a portion of your cognitive authority to whoever or whatever sent that signal. You are allowing external forces to interrupt the internal construction site of your mind. And reconstruction after interruption costs more than most people understand neuroscientifically. It takes the human brain an average of 23 minutes to return to deep focus after a significant interruption. You are not losing seconds. You are losing architecture. Write this down. Your attention is not a service you provide. It is a territory you govern. Govern it accordingly. Number 2. You eliminate before you execute. Most men approach focus by trying to add discipline on top of a life full of noise. They try harder. They wake up earlier. They build more systems. And they fail, not because they lacked effort, but because they were attempting to run clean water through a contaminated pipe. The general does not try harder inside a flawed system. He redesigns the system. He eliminates the contamination at the source. This is the principle of strategic subtraction. The assumption that more effort, more tools, more strategies, produces more output is the foundational lie of the hustle era. The man of focus power operates on a different equation. Less surface area. Deeper penetration. One direction. Full force. Look at your life right now. How many commitments do you maintain out of habit rather than alignment? How many relationships absorb your energy and return noise? How many projects exist in a perpetual state of I should get back to that? Each one of these is a tax on your cognitive reserve. Not a large tax, but they compound. Death by 1,000 small drains. The average person cannot tell you their top 3 priorities without hesitation. They have 12. Or 30. And none of them receive the concentration required to produce mastery because the attention is distributed too thin to cut through anything. The general keeps a short list. A very short list. And everything not on that list is evaluated not on its merits, but on its cost to the mission. This is what people call cold. Calculated. Difficult to reach. Those are not insults. Those are descriptions of a man whose cognitive resources are not for public consumption. Eliminate first. Then execute. Say it with me: I cut before I build. Part 3. You master the art of strategic detachment while remaining fully engaged. This is the paradox that most men never resolve, and the failure to resolve it destroys their effectiveness in every domain. There are 2 broken patterns. The The first is the emotionally reactive man. He gets drawn into every conflict, every slight, every social drama. His internal state is permanently held hostage by external events. He is exhausting to be around and impossible to rely on because his output is unpredictable. His focus evaporates the moment something emotionally provocative enters his environment. The second broken pattern is the detached man who has confused emotional numbness with strength. He disconnects to avoid pain and calls it discipline. But this man is not in control. He is absent. He does not process, he suppresses. And suppressed material does not disappear. It resurfaces as distraction, compulsive behavior, and inexplicable sabotage at critical moments. The general's path is neither of these. Strategic detachment means you are fully present in what matters and completely unmoved by what does not. You can sit in a high-stakes room and feel the pressure without being governed by it. You can receive criticism and extract the intelligence from it without the ego bleeding on the floor. You can witness chaos around you and remain the still center around which effective action becomes possible. This is not a personality type. It is a trained psychological posture. And it is trained through one specific practice, the practice of deliberate delay. Before you react, you pause. Not long. A second. 3 seconds. Enough to intercept the automatic response and ask, does engaging with this serve my mission or does it serve my ego? Most conflicts you attempted to enter serve only the ego. The ego wants to be right. The ego wants to be seen responding with force. The ego wants the last word. The general wants none of those things. The general wants outcomes. And outcomes require sustained focus, not episodic displays of dominance. Burn this into your mind. Reaction is the enemy of precision. Precision is the currency of power. Number 4. You reconstruct your relationship with discomfort to make it your primary compass. The unfocused man flees discomfort. Every time the work becomes genuinely difficult, ambiguous, or progress-resistant, he pivots. He checks his phone. He starts a new project. He reorganizes his workspace. He does something that feels productive but is functionally an escape from the specific discomfort that was, in fact, the doorway to the breakthrough. Most people have trained themselves, unconsciously and over years, to treat the signal of discomfort as a stop sign. They have associated difficulty with wrongness. If it feels this hard, maybe this is not the right path. This is the lie that has kept more talented men in permanent mediocrity than any external obstacle ever could. The general has inverted this. Discomfort is not the signal to stop. It is the signal that you have arrived at the exact location where growth occurs. The resistance you feel when the work becomes genuinely demanding, that is the precise moment when most men retreat and therefore the precise moment when your advancement becomes possible. You simply need to stay. Not with clenched teeth white-knuckle forcing. That kind of effort is unsustainable and creates its own form of fragility. You stay with presence. You make the discomfort the object of your focus rather than the obstacle to it. You become curious about the resistance rather than threatened by it. Here is the social observation. The men who appear effortlessly capable in their domain, in business, in leadership, in any craft, are not experiencing less resistance than you. They have simply been in relationship with resistance long enough that they no longer experience it as a reason to stop. The discomfort became familiar. And what is familiar does not control you. Comment: I stay when it gets hard. Number 5. You eliminate the approval architecture from your decision-making entirely. This one will cost you relationships if you implement it fully. Know that going in. Because many of the relationships in your life, not all, but many, are structured around your continued need for approval. Remove the need, and the structure changes. Some people will not adjust gracefully. Most men make their most significant decisions, career direction, relationships, creative output, public positioning, through an invisible filter. Before they commit, before they even fully form the thought, they are running a simulation. What will this look like to the people I respect? What will the people I fear say about this? Is this defensible if challenged? This simulation happens in milliseconds. It operates below conscious awareness. And it means that the man believes he is making sovereign decisions while he is actually governing by committee, a committee that never meets, never argues, and never produces a clear directive, but somehow holds veto power over your most important choices. The general does not govern by committee. He may seek intelligence, information, perspective, expertise from trusted sources. But the decision is his. The direction is his. The accountability is his. And that last part is key. The man who accepts full accountability for his direction is the only man fully free to choose it. When you stop needing approval, something shifts in how you are perceived. People sense the change in frame. The man who needs approval has a detectable quality, a subtle tension, a monitoring of responses, an adjustability in the presence of displeasure. Remove that, and you become something most people rarely encounter, a man who is fully decided. It is magnetic to the right people and threatening to those who relied on your governability. You do not ask for permission. You do not need the room to validate your direction. You make the decision in alignment with the mission and you move. Full stop. Number 6. You build your mission architecture so clearly that every decision becomes obvious. The scattered man is scattered partly because he has never done the brutal, uncomfortable work of defining exactly what he is building and why. Not in vague aspirational language, not I want to be successful or I want to create impact. With the precision of an architect who must account for every load-bearing wall. What specifically are you building? Over what time frame? What are the 3 metrics by which you will know you are on track? What are you willing to sacrifice for this? What are you not willing to sacrifice? Where is the boundary? Most men have never answered these questions with real specificity because answering them requires accepting constraints. And the uncommitted mind loves optionality. The uncommitted mind wants to be able to pivot, to adjust, to maintain the fantasy that every path is still available. Constraints feel like loss. But constraints are the source of power. The river is most powerful where the banks are narrowest. The laser is most effective when the light is coherent, aligned, focused, going one direction. Your energy, your time, your cognitive resources are most powerful when directed by a clearly defined mission that tells them where to go. When your mission architecture is clear, you do not deliberate over minor decisions. You do not agonize over whether to attend the event, take the call, engage with the opportunity. You measure it against one question. Does this serve the mission? Yes or no? Move. Write this down. Clarity of mission is the foundation of speed in execution. Number 7. You operate from silence, not performance. The loudest men in any room are rarely the most dangerous. This is something you learn when you stop needing the room to know what you are doing. There is a performance layer that most men maintain constantly. It is the social broadcast of effort, the public display of working hard, planning strategically, making moves. The posts about the early morning. The announcement of the new venture. The visible sacrifice performed for an audience of people whose respect you are, consciously or not, courting. This performance is expensive. It costs creative energy. It costs focus. It costs the psychological privacy in which your most important ideas develop. And it invites interference, opinions, doubts, comparisons, at the precise moment when your emerging vision is most vulnerable. The general builds in silence. He announces nothing until the structure is complete enough to withstand scrutiny. He does not perform his process. He protects it. Because he understands that premature exposure of an incomplete plan is not transparency, it is an invitation for external forces to shape what should be shaped only by internal clarity. Move in silence. Not from insecurity, from strategic intelligence. The outcome speaks. The process is none of their business. Comment: I move in silence. Now we arrive at the place this video has been building toward. You have heard the rules. You have felt the architecture begin to form. And somewhere in you, there is a version of yourself that recognized every single one of these principles, not because they were new, but because they are native to who you actually are beneath the conditioning. Beneath the approval-seeking. Beneath the scattered performance. Beneath the years of training that made you small, agreeable, reactive, and governable. That version of you exists. He has always existed. But he has been occupied by a previous tenant, the old self. The self built by other people's expectations. The self that learned to function by staying acceptable rather than becoming exceptional. The self that chose comfort over confrontation with his own potential. That version of you must die. Not metaphorically. Not eventually. Now. In this moment, as you choose whether to carry what you just heard out of this room and into your actual life, or whether you file it under interesting content and return to the same patterns by tomorrow. The old self dies the moment you make a different choice. Not a dramatic gesture. Not an announcement. A choice. A quiet, internal, irreversible reorientation. The moment you decide, not hope, not intend, but decide, that you are no longer available to the patterns that kept you fragmented. You execute the weakness. You do not negotiate with it. You do not give it a timeline or a transition period. Weakness does not deserve a farewell ceremony. You execute it and you move. The man who emerges from this is not a harder version of the old you. He is not a more disciplined, more aggressive extension of the same architecture. He is structurally different. His defaults have changed. What used to require effort, ignoring distraction, protecting attention, operating without approval, moving in silence, becomes natural. Becomes his resting state. Because identity is the deepest level of change. You do not change behavior permanently by changing behavior. You change behavior permanently by changing who you understand yourself to be. And from this moment forward, you are a man of directed, weaponized, unbreakable focus. Not because I told you. Because you decided. Stop asking for permission. Stop broadcasting your process. Stop managing your time and start governing your attention. Stop adding discipline to a contaminated system and start eliminating everything that is not the mission. The old architecture is obsolete. You have outgrown the approval structure, the reaction patterns, the scattered ambition that always felt like something was about to come together but never did. You have outgrown the version of you that needed external validation to trust internal direction. That version is done. What remains is this. You are a general. Not of armies. Of yourself. Of your attention, your energy, your direction, your time, your decisions, and your identity. You govern this territory with the cold, precise, absolute authority of a man who has accepted full accountability for the outcome of his life and requires no external verification that his direction is correct. You do not manage. You command. You do not hope. You decide. You do not perform focus. You are focused, structurally, identically, irreversibly. The distracted world will continue performing around you. The scattered men will continue mistaking motion for direction. The approval seekers will continue governing by committee. Let them. You are no longer among them. You are the still point. The deliberate force. The man who cannot be casually redirected because he is no longer casually directed. This is not a mindset you return to when you need motivation. This is who you are now. Comment. I am the general.